We work, we live, we innovate, and create. At the center of it all is your brain health. The ability to solve problems, think analytically, share empathy, and thrive.
We're trying to make brain performance really the next fitness revolution.
Scientific discoveries show that your brain can adapt and grow regardless of your starting point. The Center for Brain Health can show you how to transform your mind to work stronger and faster.
We learned from a national poll that 95% of people want to do something about their brains. The problem is they don't know where or how to start. At the Center for Brain Health, we have easy-to-use, scientifically proven tools to provide people a proactive path to do just that, to help people everywhere improve their quality of life through brain health. What's exciting is that it's easy to start, and starting is urgent because we are in a brain health crisis.
So how do you boost your brain power? How can better brain health help you focus on what's most important?
Brain training is a part of the way that we would distinguish ourselves from others. Quite frankly, I think it's going to be commonplace in businesses in years to come.
We are seeing an epidemic of mental health concerns. Stress and overload lead to depression, anxiety, and burnout. Our brains hold the key to navigate these hurdles. It's never too soon to start.
I think the greatest national security threat is pre-K through 12. If we don't take care of educating our young men and women, then we have to ask ourselves, where are we going to be in 20 years?
Research shows training middle schoolers how to think, problem solve, and innovate significantly improves academic achievement. Even more importantly, it enhances confidence and well-being for them to thrive throughout their lives.
It really helps the kid and it builds their stamina. I genuinely credit my success in the classroom from this program.
The key to the future is stronger brain health for individuals and communities. Ready to transform the world with us? Be a part of the brain health revolution. It starts here.
Welcome to Center for Brain Health. Welcome to the virtual audience, and thank all of you for being here today. We're here at the Center for Brain Health, which is part of the University of Texas at Dallas. We are solely dedicated to researching how to keep the brain healthier longer. That's what Dr. Chapman's been doing for the past 30 years. It's our sole focus. We combine leading-edge cognitive neuroscience, and we work with strategies and programs that we bring out to the community to empower each and every one of you to become architects of your own brain. Right? You heard that on the video. You have the power to improve your own brain health and performance. What we're trying to do is show you how to do it. Over the past 20 years, we've worked with young and old. We've worked with military, both active duty and retired. We've worked with teachers and over 90,000 students across Texas. So today we're excited. It's day 2 of our Brain Health Week, so we're really excited to be starting our first annual Brain Health Week. And today is all about clarity. That's our theme for today. So what I'm going to ask all of you to do today is be a curious and patient listener. You did a little bit of that today, talking to your mentors, and that's what we're going to talk about today, is being a good listener. And also, if you're a student, raise your hand. So thank all of you for being here. You're going to, again, yes, awesome. So this is one of those moments where I just go, wow, I can't believe I'm here and I get to do this. So I get to introduce 3 wonderful speakers today and our very own Jen Zients. So Jen has been here since we started translating our programs into actual tools people can use. So Jen's going to lead the discussion today. She's our head of clinical services. Dr. Kara Allen is joining us from the Spurs. I'm going to do brief introductions because they tell their story better than I can. Dr. Kara Allen with the Spurs, Katie Edwards with the Mavericks, and Dr. Michael Sorrell. So in the theme of clarity, I'm going to get off stage and let them start. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve. First of all, I just got to say, I'm so excited to see everybody, all of you here for our inaugural Brain Health Week, and I cannot wait. I get massive honor to be able to moderate, maybe, a conversation with the three of you. So thank you all for being here. Yeah, like Steve was just saying, you guys you tell your stories best. So why don't you just briefly-ish introduce yourselves, but with the key finding of like what really inspires you and what you do. You want to start, Kara? Sorry.
It's like visitors go first. Thank you for letting me, as a Spur, join you in Dallas and Mavs land. It's an honor all the time. It will even be an honor Thursday night. It will always be an honor. My name is Kara Allen. I'm our Chief Impact Officer at the Spurs, which means I get to oversee all the things that we do in community, all the things we do with people operations, people and culture, and all the things that we do around diversity, equity, inclusion, which I'll really just call belonging, because the goal for us is, do people belong? My story is from that lens. I will say I love sports. I played sports in college. And I come to this work and I come to this space with all love for community and using sport as the vehicle to drive meaningful, lasting change on things that we have historically seen as seemingly intractable problems. My center is really clear. My ego is very deeply built in my 29-year-old who's in medical school and my 9-year-old who might as well be in medical school. But the two of them and the kiddos in between who sometimes call me mom, mostly when they need money, are sort of my guiding light. And to that end, when you think about sort of like what inspires me and how I center the work through that space, if you haven't noticed, work and world are one for me. I love this work. I love the opportunity to show up in community and to figure out how to do well and do right together. And to be fair, like, we're like little specks and like little stardust in this space. So let's go do great together and figure out the hardest right. And it sounds super joyful, and it's not. Some of it is really, really hard and frustrating, and that's the journey for me. But also, like, that's kind of the thing that inspires me. What's the hardest thing to solve, and let's go. Let's go hard.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I am Katie Edwards. I am also the Chief Impact Officer at the Dallas Mavericks and President of the Mavs Foundation. So as far as what that means for us, it's all things community. It is all things giving back to the place that we call home. We have 5 different areas of focus. So it's a lot of different critical needs here in our area, everything from education, and what that looks like for us is mostly K through 12 support, but also college programs and getting ready for our pipeline of talent into the workforce, but also health and wellness. So of course, youth basketball and all of the things around nutrition, and really brain health fits into that umbrella for us. Mental health is very much an important piece to your physical health and also your emotional health. Leading into our first responder and military support and appreciation, which in the last few years has really grown to include our support of healthcare workers and frontline emergency staff. So very much support during the pandemic was such a crucial piece. And health also means for us basic needs, things around homelessness, hunger, and housing. So that also gets many of the different programs that we have around those pillars. Environmental efforts and sustainability is very much part of who we are. And of course, our newest efforts underneath our Mavs Take Action program for promoting social justice and addressing racial inequities. So it is broad. There's not a lot that doesn't fit under one of those umbrellas, but it's really about taking care of each other. And I think that's just something that's so core to who we are as an organization, whether it's taking care of our team, our players, our coaches, but also taking care of our employees, but then of course taking care of each other here in the community. So it's something that's so core to who we are. It's really in every decision that we're making, and that comes from our leadership, comes from the top down, and having the support of our governor, Mark Cuban, but also our CEO, Sent Marshall, has been really key to driving the impact that we have here in North Texas. So really continuing to grow that work is the goal. As far as me personally, my background is in nonprofit. So I was with a place called the Center for Nonprofit Management for about 15 years, and really am well connected in the nonprofit world here in North Texas. So my background is not sports. I was into music theater when I was a kid, so it's not who I was, but it's something that, you know, really having a connection with the nonprofits that do this work is so critical. So for us, it's about building community trust and having the right partners who can really help, who are doing the work. So, you know, we are not an expert in brain health. We're not an expert in all of these different areas, but we hope that we can be a catalyst for change. So we hope that we can amplify that work for all of these amazing and critical things happening. So that's the exciting part of what I get to do, which is to use this really unique platform that we have in a professional basketball team to shine the light on some really critical issues and help support the things that are going on here. So that's what inspires me. I very much enjoy bringing people together. It's about, we can all have common goals together even though we are so diverse. So we can come from different backgrounds, we can come from a different lens of who we are, but we can come together for a shared purpose. And so for me, it's about that unity and how we can support each other, whether that's me personally in the relationships of leading a team or the staff members that I work with, to my family, to the community partners and people who I truly see as my family and our friends, and what we can do together. So that's what inspires me every day, which leads me to Dr. Sorrell. Thank you. Amazing partner.
Well, let me just say, the irony of me being here is I'm only here because I failed getting a job in the NBA, right? So if you know my story, I was part of a group that was negotiating to purchase the Memphis Grizzlies. I was going to be a part owner and president of the franchise, and I got a call while I was on the highway going to scout Kevin Durant, offering me this job. I laughed. I told them thank you, but we're buying a basketball team, and I had no idea what they were going to pay me, but the basketball team was going to pay me more. And I was envisioning a life, what I like to call my Range Rover lifestyle, right? Instead, I wound up with a used car lifestyle. And I love my used car. It's not a bad thing. But I am thrilled to be here because, quite simply, I am about one thing and one thing only, and that is justice. All right? We live in a world where it's unimaginable that we allow people to walk the face of this earth with their lives being defined by scarcity and by poverty. And somehow we have allowed ourselves to believe that it was because of a choice they made or something they didn't do. And the reality of it is none of us did anything to deserve what we have compared to the things that they don't have. We have been blessed. And you are not blessed to be selfish. You are blessed to be selfless. And so at Paul Quinn College, our simple goal is the eradication of intergenerational poverty. We're not here to make people with a lot feel better about not doing enough. Right? We will fight the fights that need to be fought for the people who need them fought. And that doesn't always make you popular. You should not define your life by popularity. You should define your life by the impact that you have for others. And so we are proud of the work that we do, but we are most proud of the fact that we get to show up in spaces where we can amplify the need for justice. And listen, there are few franchises that I think more highly of than the Spurs and the Mavericks. Our relationship with the Mavericks is incredible. We have a Mavs major. We have lots of other things that go on behind the scenes that are just extraordinary. And Katie and her team, wonderful, wonderful people, right? I have been a big fan of the Spurs for a long time. In a former life, their former owner used to be one of my clients, right? But it was the Caterpillar part of his business. No free tickets because of the Spurs part, right? But to see what both of those franchises have built is extraordinary. And so as we sit here today, and I'm very humbled to be here with all of you, I would just ask you, when you leave us, just never let go of one simple question, and that is, are you doing enough? And if you're honest with yourself, the answer is never yes, right? You're never doing enough. As long as you drive by someone and you see a homeless person on the street, then no, you have not done enough. Don't become discouraged by that. Just redouble your efforts to do more. And so if you have any idea, you have any questions about how you can do more, you can always call the good folks at Paul Quinn College. We have amazing ideas for you. In fact, will all my Paul Quinn College people please stand up? They are wonderful. They will answer any questions you have. And if they don't ask you for any money, tell me, because I will. All right, thank you.
Thank you, guys. So you kind of have hit on this, but in one sentence, how would you define impact?
It's hard. So, I will say, coming from the nonprofit world, we did a lot of discussion around this, right? Because you want to be able to measure that impact. It's very critical to be able to get the dollars, right? You have to say, this is the change we're making. This is the reason why we need your dollars to help us do this work, right? So it is a constant conversation, and it is a big challenge. How do you talk about your impact, and how do you take credit for the impact that you see in the world, right? So, if you get very specific, we used to talk about outputs and outcomes, right? So outputs, number of people, pounds of clothing or food donated, all those different metrics that you can count. But it's really the outcomes that are so important, because it's that change or the difference that you make in someone's life. And that's the really hard part to measure. So how do you say, we did this thing and thus this thing happened, or this person's life changed because of that? And that's the really hard part about it.
How would you guys define it differently or add to that?
You want me to take this one? All right, just because I like you.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
And you said one sentence?
If you can,
I
but I realize it's hard.
No. I believe in honoring my instructions. All right? I would say it like this: you know it when you feel it, and you know it when others feel it.
Okay.
Give people what they say they need.
Give people what they
Get people.
Get people what they say they
Get
need.
people what they say they need.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it does come down to outcome. How does everything roll out? So I wanted to kind of direct everybody. Everybody has on their table some brain skills that really contribute to effective leadership and to making an impact, being able to make an impact. So I want to throw just a couple of these out at you guys, and I want you to reflect back on it. And Dr. Sorrell, you kind of alluded to this, but one of the things that we see leaders from a brain health standpoint, a very effective skill that they need, is to be able to reframe mistakes, errors, failures, big and small, in order to learn lessons and reframe so that we're not just up against. We know good leaders, effective leaders are not stymied by a rock wall when something goes wrong. So talk about failure. Share some personal experience where you've thought, you may have ruminated about this failure, but that you were able to see the light out of it.
So the first thing you need to understand about me is, as long as I'm living, I haven't failed, right? I don't believe in failure. I believe in stumbles, right? But we tell our students, don't allow your stumble to become a fall. I have stumbled mightily in my life, right? But there was always a next. And I am committed to the idea that my next will always be better than my now, and that as long as I get up in the morning, I can change the outcome. And at my core, I believe that, right? So I grew up, I was a basketball player. I missed so many shots, right? Because I loved to shoot, all right? It didn't matter because I fundamentally believed I was one shot away from going on a run. Now, I had a game in college where I was 6 for 24. One could argue that run didn't come, right? Until the next game. But my point is, you have a choice to make in life. How you see your experiences will determine how you relate to so-called failure. You will always stumble. You cannot grow without stumbling. I tell my children all the time, nothing great happens from places of comfort. It never has and it never will. So as you grow, as you stretch, you should struggle. You should stumble. But it's part of the growing process. So I have stumbled plenty, but I have grown even more. And I am thankful for that. But every single great advancement that we have made or I have made has come on the heels of a stumble.
That's one of the big strategies, one of the big things that we talk about is our ability to be flexible. And so it's so easy to get stuck in this rumination and this negativity of, I didn't do well enough. And I love that is being able to see these lessons learned, that you can come out of that. And anybody has that capacity to do that. And I think that so many of us just get stuck. We get stuck in a rut. And so I think it's so inspiring to hear somebody like you say that, because it's constant stumble, and that's where I'm growing. Love that. Thank you. Okay, being open to different perspectives. This is another skill that is for effective leadership, being open to different perspectives. Carrie, will you talk to that?
Sure. You should know, she didn't tell us these questions before.
No, did not.
She really didn't. So here's my thoughts on what it means. When I hear you say that, what I receive is, what does it mean to get proximal? What does it mean to get proximal to people? So I started my career as a teacher in Oakland, and to say I was shell-shocked as like a small-town Indiana girl who thought she could save the world is an understatement. And I learned really quickly that the world is much different than the narrative I told myself and that I was told. And having said that, I don't know why I decided I needed 2 masters and a doctorate to tell you exactly what I'm going to tell you now, and a lot of student loans. In that classroom, I was trying to teach math the way, 1, that I learned math, 2, that the textbook told me, 3, that the school told me I was supposed to teach it, and it was all wrong. And I knew it because of this moment, because the young people who I had in my class, who were incredible young people, who also had a horrible title called Severely Emotionally Disturbed. And I truly love them and never expect the love back, but I'm going to love hard. And their world and my ability to get proximal to them was the deciding factor on whether or not there was going to be any learning in that classroom. If I chose to stay the course that I was taught, it meant I was going to read a question like this. If Johnny had 7 bushels of, let me tell you what a classroom in Oakland does when you talk to them about bushels. Like, they had no idea what I was talking about, nor do I, to be fair. I don't really know what a bushel is, if I'm being honest. And it hit me, Kenny, who was this 12-year-old in class, Kenny raises his hand, and I'm not going to say it here because there's folks online who could be recording this, but you'll get the point. Kenny raised his hand, and he said, Miss Kara, I don't know what a bushel is. Kenny taught me what lots of education should have taught me, which is to say, get proximal. Why does Kenny need to know a bushel? So gaining perspective for me is less about walking in someone else's shoes. You don't know their size. We might have different Jordan styles. He might never have walked in Jordans. He wants Adidas. I'm less interested in walking in someone else's shoes and more interested in how you walk beside them. how you truly get proximal to them, how we stand next to each other, when we stand. And that was it for Kenny. And I'll tell you, the end result is I went to the Oakland Raiders practice facility, and I waited until one of the players came out. I asked Kenny, what do you care most about? And he's like, basketball and the Raiders. Okay. So I go to the practice facility. I wait for one of the rookies to come out. And I say, I need you to come to class and read the stats. And read the stats on your day off. So that was back in the day when the NFL would have a day off on Monday, and I'm too old for most of you. But nonetheless, we had this rookie come and read his stats to the classroom. Just once, I said, just once, come and read your stats, and let's learn math that way. And that classroom was in heaven. And that player kept coming every day because everybody got proximal to each other. To be fair, that player for the first time was doing real and true engaged community work. That player is actually now a civil rights attorney in North Carolina. I spent a couple of years with the Raiders and did that work. But I share all that to say, less about perspective for me and more about getting proximal.
Thank you. All right, Katie, this is going to be for you, is thinking about, and you've talked about so many things that the Mavericks and all your job entails, so I think this is actually very appropriate. How do you, we know that leaders and decision makers get tons of ideas thrown at them and proposals and tons, all this stuff. Effective leadership, though, is someone who can figure out which of those things I actually need to pay attention to, focus on, where are my efforts, my energy, and how do I filter out all these other wonderful but excessive, extra kinds of asks. So how do you filter all this stuff out to stay on course?
I think that is it's part of our critical work, right? So strategic decisions, like what do you prioritize? Where do you put your time, your energy, your effort? It is very difficult because honestly, there's critical needs across the board. And when you're well connected with the community and with your partners, they will all tell you the things that are needed. And so how do you decide where do your dollars go? How do you decide which programs are going to, get our effort, this season versus next or not at all? And I think part of it is listening, clearly. So, and to have a trust with the community to be able to listen and I think that's part of leadership, right? I can go in and say, I don't know the answers, and I need to listen, and I need to be able to hear from my team, from my partners, from everyone to have an understanding. And I think part of that emotional intelligence is to be able to hear and understand and not kind of plow through of like, well, this is what we decided our mission is going to be, and this is what we're going to do. You have to be able to take the time to listen. But then how do you decide through the clutter? And I do think that is a very, very difficult choice to decide this and not that. Because I think if you're a compassionate person who wants to walk alongside our community and give them the things that they need, we can't do it all. And so how do we decide? And I think, honestly, it's even giving our community partners the opportunity to say, what is the biggest priority for you? I hear that you need this. Where do you see together the community coming around one particular thing? And say, okay, all together, if we hear all of these different things, how can we decide where we're going to prioritize? And I think it's something you can do collaboratively. And it's not, me from my high perch saying, well, I'm going to pick this. I think it's that trust for the community to say, well, we understand. You know what? We're going to come together around this is the thing that we're going to do together. So being strategic, I think you can decide. Hopefully you can be planning in advance. We talk a lot about, are we responding to needs? Are we reacting to needs? Or can we be strategic? And it's something we struggle with every day. How do we get ahead? How do you know what's coming next? How do you predict COVID and decide that this is where the community is going to need it? So I think we're always going to be reactive. We're always going to be responsive, and I hope we're responsive to listening and being able to provide the need. But you also have to be knowing where you want to go and what your vision is for the future. And those are big, bold changes. So what kind of steps can you take to address the needs and really actually take
action. We talk a lot about that too. It's not just words. It's not, what we say we want to do. How do we actually take those steps forward in big, bold change movements?
Yeah.
And
Well,
it's hard.
And I think that, we were talking about is this reactivity to things, and I think it's very important to be reactive. But a mindset of being proactive and being able to think forward and possibilities and seeing like what could be, or where can we go, or where should we go, so that we can be adaptive, agile thinkers. That is, again, another skill that we can always be training and practicing, even in the midst of unknown. And that's really when it's important, is when there's so much unknown going on, right? We've got to figure that out. Okay, cool. So this is for all of you. What is the role of, just kind of in this idea of possibility thinking, what is the role, or how important is it to dream? And I don't mean in your sleep dreaming. I mean for your life, to be making an impact, for your leadership. How important is it? Would you advise, what do you say about that?
I feel like that's a Dr. Sherrill question.
Really?
Yes.
So this is what I'm going to say. We oftentimes use words that we assign a universal meaning to, and we believe that the definition we use is the right definition. And what we fail to realize many times is that our definitions are luxuries that we have because of the advantages that we have been gifted and small e earned, right? And I say that because I often think about this term resilience. And we like to talk about resilience as if it's really easy to create. And what you have to realize is if I'm going to borrow some of what the good doctor talked about in Oakland, and I love Oakland. We have spent an enormous amount of time in Oakland. I have spent time there. We're going to open up a campus in Oakland. I have sat in the classrooms in those schools. Literally, I've been the graduation speaker at several of them. Like, I understand the fundamentals of Oakland as best you can if you don't live there, right? Because living there, to your point about proximity, right? But here's the thing, that spending a lifetime of walking in difficult places. Poverty is a traumatic state. Trauma robs you of your ability to be resilient in the way that we like to define it. I use that as a precursor to talking about dreams. We like to, I'll own it, I like to think about dreams in color. If your life has been difficult just getting your basic needs met, you might not dream in color. You might be dreaming in black and white because you've been taught to dream in an environment which limits what you believe is possible. And so one of the things that we encourage our students to do, and that we work really hard at finding ways to connect with them in this way, is to expand the idea of dreams. I believe in something called the inevitability of our own success. At the beginning, I try to communicate to our students, you are going to win. I don't care what life has looked like before now in terms of how it's shaped what you believe is possible, because we're going to find a way to connect with you to help you dream bigger, right? To expand that so that you no longer are thinking about, and this is one of the ways it shows up. If you're a Paul Quinn student, we have something called the Quinnite Introduction. In fact, who should we have give the Quinnite? Let me see. You stand up and give them the Quinnite Introduction. No, what's the last most important part of the introduction? There you go, right? Good. So I can only give her a B+ because she didn't frame it properly at the end, and she knows this. The last part is, my dream for my life is, right? But no matter how wonderful our student, and she is wonderful, right? I have taught her, I adore her. I think she's going to be an enormous success in life, right? And I picked on her because I know these things, okay? But we have our students talk about their dreams. But articulating your dreams in a public space is scary. But if you can't talk about your dreams, then you already have begun to dial back your dream, to marginalize your dream. You have to be able to stand up and shout your dream. That's dreaming in color. And far too many of us, because of life, and it's just the way life is, we've been taught to scale back on our dreams. I am not here for any of that. I want people to shout their dreams, to dream the biggest dreams they can, and then work really hard to get. She's going to be extraordinary. She is. She works hard. She is humble, but confident. She's all the things that you look for. She's extraordinary. Anyone out there that is looking for someone to hire, you would do well to hire Andresia, right? No, this is more than just an Andresia commercial, right? My point is that dreaming is everything, but we don't define it the same way. And until we do, we aren't helping each other live up to the potential of those dreams. And so I did not mean to be long-winded at this at all. It's just dreams are something that I'm very passionate about. I exist in the space I do because I consider it an honor to help my students and my staff to accomplish their dreams, because that's what I care about more than anything else. At the end of the day, have we been good stewards of your time in a way that allows you to dream bigger? And that is a gift. If you want to serve, I think that has to be, you have to ask people what their dreams are. You have to invest in giving them the resources to accomplish those dreams. And then you stand next to them and help them accomplish those dreams. I have no idea what the question was. I just got it.
I'm here for that.
No, Kara, before you say something.
Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I just wanted to say that encompasses what we believe here. We believe in being empowered around your brain health so that next year and the next year and the next year, you are you, but better. And so it is about being able to kind of see for yourself in color, what do you want and how are you going to get it?
I want to add something. Andresia, is that your name? Did I say it right? Are you sure? Okay, you should call me out if I don't. More often than not, those of us that hear the word dream and think about like how much REM sleep we got have a moral, social, and communal responsibility to choose to dream on behalf of another.
Oh, I love that.
At all costs, we have a responsibility to choose Andresia's dream and make it real. At all costs, it is an honor, it is the honor of my lifetime to ensure that your dream comes true, and I will do whatever is within my bounds to ensure that happens. That is how we dream as humans who have access. That is our responsibility, that is a privilege, and it is an honor. So when I hear the word dream, I can't help but hear that your definition, Doc, is so real and so powerful. And because you and I are different humans, my definition is different only in that it is my responsibility to ensure that I am aligned to yours and I walk alongside you.
I wasn't not paying attention. I was typing it in so I could give you credit for it when I steal it the next time. So I wanted to make sure.
You don't ever have to give me credit. No credit.
We believe in giving credit, right? Like, absolutely.
Love that. So hopefully everybody, obviously 3 incredible people up here, get questions because we are going to open it up to some audience questions. So don't miss out on your opportunity to engage with these 3. Okay, cool. Okay, another question for you guys. thinking about, we all know that not everybody knows everything. Certainly we think even the greatest, our most inspired leaders, the people who have been incredible, have made a great impact on us, did not know everything. But talk to the importance of naivete. Because especially for people that are just coming like out of school, or even like I got a new job, or the things that I'm moving into, or I have teenage boys, and then I'll be moving into that phase of my life. How does naivete fit into all this, and what could you say about that?
Goodness, it's a good question. So, I think I can come at it from a variety of angles, which is to say, it provides a fresh start. So I'm going to say that in a positive way, which is to say, I think many of us, there's a fatigue that can happen, a burnout that can happen, especially in community work, and there's so many real and hard issues that I think you can get a bit jaded, and you can get a bit cynical, and you can get burnt out on the work. But I think that those who are new have such a fresh perspective, and there's an enthusiasm, and it can be invigorating to the rest of the work. And so to me, I absolutely love new energy, and I love fresh perspectives, is to come at it from a different way. So to me, being naive about something is really exciting. So, and as much as you can have experience and you can learn from those experiences, and it can guide your decisions, and maybe you can come quicker to a decision or faster because you've done it before, but you might be missing something. So to me, that new personality or new perspective or new person who's coming to something is an exciting way to look at it differently and to learn. So I think that's an exciting challenge, and that we should all have a balanced table of people who maybe have experience doing something, but also those who don't, so that we can listen and understand a different way to look at it.
Yeah. So my entire career in education is because I was too stupid to know that it wasn't possible, right? Like, I was that naive. So, and this is an honest to God true story. I was the very last choice for this job, right? And I know that because I was on the board and saw all the people who turned it down before it was offered to me, right? So 16 years ago, Paul Quinn was 18 months from closing. And so many things were broken, and I don't need to retell that story, but what you need to know is all the people with higher education experience knew that this was not a good job to take, right? So they all turned it down. So when they called me up, I had no idea how impossible this was supposed to be. So I was completely naive. I just knew people should have better, right? So when we turned the football field into a farm, we had no idea how hard farming was, right? By the way, it's really hard, okay? Like, we turned the football field into a farm, we thought it was going well, and then we realized we forgot to put an irrigation system in place, right? So then we strapped hoses from the gym, and we all stood out there in the hot sun, watering, right? Crops were growing like this, right? But it was righteous rage. You learn, you evolve, you continue, right? And so you need naivete, right? Sometimes it is a blessing to be naive, right? But once you learn, never lose the optimism that naivete blessed you with, right? Evolve, but incorporate that optimism, because it will serve you well your whole life. So now, the fact that we're expanding across the country, the fact that we're doing all these other things that people think is impossible, it doesn't matter what people think, right? Because we have already done that which people have told us was impossible. So the gift, the blessing of life is the optimism that comes with naivete, and the confidence which comes from building on naivete.
You have anything to add?
Man.
No, yeah, like said it all, both of you. I know, I love it. Thank you. How do you transform? I mean, what do you think is one of the key important a key. What is one of the keys to actually transforming great ideas into action?
Oh, I was just going to say, take the first step, right? So I think if there is a bold vision, and it can feel giant, I think there's the old saying is like, how do you eat an elephant, right? One bite at a time. So you want to just take that first step. And maybe the first step is listening. Maybe the first step is learning. Maybe the first step is, because we can say, okay, we want to tackle X issue, and we just are like, oh my gosh, where to start, right? And so I think the first step is often listen, learn, and then go from there, right? Because, you know, if you're not moving forward, you're not taking action. So you have to take some step, right? And often I think it's first learning and listening to those who know more than you do about it.
I have two things. One, for me, it's don't go alone. The first step for me is find somebody to walk with me. Feels like an analogy that I'm just sticking with today. But truly, like, I think not going alone is a fail-safe for kind of everything. But also, can I have like 1 minute? Because I didn't want to go right after you, but I have to go back to this naivete conversation for just a second. Because, okay, I won't say anything else. There's no follow-up questions to this. I can feel you getting nervous about the question I'm going to ask. For a second, think about either when you were raising a child or you were a child and you had the talk. Actually.
Which talk?
There you go. Okay, we could go on the road. Raise your hand, or just choose to raise your hand in your brain, if the talk you had was about sex, was about the birds and the bees. Okay. Oh, that's great.
Yeah, but that was an evolving conversation.
Okay.
Yeah.
I won't do follow-up. But for some folks, the talk is very different. And I'm naming it for this. My two best friends and I had this conversation 2 weeks ago. Their talk was about police, and my talk was about the birds and the bees. And the privilege I had of being naive to the things that had to happen for her and for them to grow up is beautiful, and also requires a remarkable responsibility to become less naive about the things we don't know. So I name that only because I would feel irresponsible to leave the naive conversation by saying that naive is all good. It's actually, I think, a call to action for us. A call to action to understand the different ways in which being naive shows up with privilege in the world within which we move. Sorry.
No, that's a great point.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Cool.
She said, you're welcome.
Yeah, I'm glad. Okay, well, do you have another?
Not go alone. That was my thing.
Not go alone. You gonna answer?
I don't even know what the question was. I like what she was talking about.
How do we move great ideas into action? So
I'm fine with that.
Okay,
I think they
let's
gave
leave
great
that there.
answers.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so I think we're getting ready for Q&A. Yeah.
Good. Q&A, and we do have people who are virtual. Do send them in on the Q&A. I have them on my phone, so we'll ask, and I'm going to walk the mic around so we can stay efficient. So take advantage of these wonderful brains. Quick questions so we can get a lot in.
Wait, but right before you ask your question, I just want to
Yes.
say, so many of the things that you guys have just talked about in terms of perspective, prioritizing, knowing how to elephant, it just reminded me, our whole, we have a big program called the Brain Health Project. And these kinds of strategies, because I also love this when I watch a lot of leadership videos and people are so inspiring, and then I say, okay, how? But how do I do that? Mm-hmm. And I think it's really cool to think there are cognitive strategies that people can learn to actually put things into place. So even knowing, how do I take the first step? Mm-hmm. There are a lot of our cognitive strategies that we teach talk to these things. So I'm just doing a plug. check it out so that you guys can really see, like, how do I put these kinds of lessons and these inputs into action? Okay.
And students, remember, you get a chance to chat with Kara afterwards, but let's get some questions in now.
Hi, everybody. My name is Vignesh, or Viggy. That's been happening all day. I'm a master's computer science student at the University of Texas at Dallas and the president of the Artificial Intelligence Society. So we like AI. Yay. And my dream is to have our hackathon in April 15th, 16th to happen. So we're asking money here. So I'll ask money right now. Hey, I'm right.
He's trying to get the mic back. That was awesome.
But I have a really good question. I promise. We've worked with the Mavs before, so we'll be talking to you. But I think we talked about creativity and stuff, but I think when the naive, all of that, the reason I mention it is because there was an article that came out a couple of weeks ago. It was a bunch of 8 to 10-year-olds writing poems. And I kid you not, the stuff they were saying about, it was just so profound. You could see their creativity. You could see emotion. And I think as we grow up as people we're in college, we start to see that creativity, that passion, that kind of dream fizzle, right? When we come in, that talk, right? Because I had that same question, which talk? I had 7. And my question is, as students and as in brain health and everything, how do we keep thinking different with the rise of AI technologies? We're all scared, right? Things are going to get changed, but how do we maintain being creative? How do we maintain being innovative?
Perfect. Who wants to take that? Michael? I'm going to lead this a little bit so we stay
safe. Gee, I would like to take it. Listen, man, life will steal your joy if you allow it to. Right? The day-to-day pressures of just existing. But some of those are created because we, I'm going to use your word, artificially, we artificially believe, or insert the belief that we have to do certain things. Internally, we have a voice. And the stress in your life comes from trying to ignore what your internal voice is telling you to do. I have found that life is so much more harmonious, and I have so much more space to be creative when I am walking in my purpose. And my purpose has always been crystal clear. My confidence in listening to that purpose and following that purpose is what's been difficult. Because I will tell you this, from the time I was a little boy, I loved really 3 basic things. I loved basketball, I loved justice, and I loved my family, right? Fast forward to the choices I have made in my life. When I chased money, I was not happy. When I tried to pretend I did not love basketball, I was not. And by the way, the reason that I tried to pretend I didn't love basketball was because I'm a large black man who went to elite schools where everyone thought that the only reason he was there was because he could shoot, right? And by the way, that never leaves, right? I have 2 Duke degrees, a doctorate from Penn, and I used up all my eligibility to get into those 3 places. Intramurals wasn't gonna get me into school, right? But my unwillingness to embrace what I loved because of what others might have thought, right, made me uncomfortable. And coming to grips with the fact that what I really love is my family, right? The things that I have turned down, people think I'm crazy, except for one simple reason. I love my family more than I love anything else. So and when I am walking in my truth, I become so much more creative. So what I would tell you is, screw everybody else's ideas about who you should be. Embrace your internal voice, walk in your truth, and I am willing to bet you will be shocked by how creative you become. You won't be able to contain the ideas. And if not, call me and we'll figure out what went wrong. Okay?
Awesome.
Can I add something
yes.
to that? Because I think that is so extremely powerful. And I will also say from a brain health perspective, in addition to purpose, curiosity.
Yeah.
Just being inherently and figuring out what am I curious about? And even being curious about what you're curious about. And even if you don't have any curiosities, everybody can strum up something to be curious about, and that drives us so far in creativity as well as purpose.
Oh, so and I forgot, because we're talking brain health, so I should probably pretend that I, at least show that I did some reading on the subject matter, right? So knowledge gained freely without stress always resonates more deeply than in the Odyssey. I did read some stuff on brain health, right? And so when you remove the stress, your brain functions more freely and more properly.
That is, he's like a doctorate in brain health. All right, David.
First of all, I'd like to thank the three of you because this has been impressive to say the least, and it's been absolutely wonderful entertainment, I promise you, in a good way. My question is, so I wanted to say thank you to you guys, and thank you, Jennifer, as always. From the position I sit now at the Brain Center and have for years and years, I have a wonderful perspective of what's going on. And Kara, I have to tell you, I am fascinated with what you guys are proposing to do in San Antonio. And I think it would be interesting after hearing this conversation for the audience to hear a little bit about what you have. And I've been very close to this gentleman right here, so I probably know more about it than the average person. But I'd love for this audience to hear.
The Rock.
Yes. I'll offer this really quickly. I think oftentimes we lose all the things we want, like creativity and curiosity and performance, when we choose to make the uncertain certain. And I'll just leave you with that. I think so often we choose that things are certainties, and they usually actually aren't. What we've got going on in San Antonio, which is an honor to speak on, but it's this little project, lots of hundreds of millions of dollars project. We call The Rock. If you know our coach Pop and our legacy, there's a story about the stone cutter, that it's not that final, everybody keeps taking a blow at the Rock, right? And it's not that final blow that made the difference, but it's all the ones that came before it. And so most things in our organization are rooted in some way in the Rock, in the way that we think about all of us as stone cutters. And so we're building this human performance center with the commitment of not building it for us, but building it for other. Our team will practice there, but in addition, in addition to our team practicing there, we will host a research center, a human performance center, a public plaza, a space truly for, I would say, democratizing access to the things that we know work at all costs. You heard me say it sort of flippantly, like, I don't need credit. I actually genuinely mean that. And the goal, I think, is for us as the Spurs to, equally, what we have is not ours to have and to hold. It's ours to share and get better together. Because chances are, I mean, y'all know this, whatever I said, he's going to take and make it better. And that's our job, right? Literally, that's our job as humans. And so the Human Performance Center, The Rock, is just that. How do we share what we have and what we're learning, and how do we get better? One other piece, and thank you for, but I should have started with this, but thank you all for creating this space to have hard, sometimes silly conversations. It's also not to do it alone. Because the reality is, the goal for me of leadership is, we don't know what we're doing a lot of the time, but we're good at asking questions to find out who does, and then asking them to come along with us. And so that's the work. Ask the question and go with other people, go with other organizations, go with other teams, go with other. And so The Rock is just that. It's a collaboration of a lot of really smart organizations and bodies and institutions here in Texas who are going along with us, the Brain Health being one of them.
That's awesome. And Katie, Lisa from our virtual audience asked, and I know the foundation focuses on education, How do young students or new leaders seek out mentorship? Like we're trying to start that today. What do y'all do to try to help connect young people with mentors?
Yeah, it's such an important piece to leadership, right? Is to be able to pass along and help grow the future leader, right? So, you know, it comes into women's leadership and you know, for those of us who are able to sit at tables, how do you keep from not pulling the ladder up behind you, right? How do you keep generating new folks who can still come? And mentorship is such a huge piece of that. You know, I value so much our CEO, Cint Marshall, who has really a personal mission around mentorship, which is she has been through, for those of you who know her story, here's a plug for her book, go get her book. And the power in having someone who is your mentor, but also who's your sponsor, right? Who's supporting you, who not only are you helping that person learn from, but you're setting them up for success and you're providing opportunity. So it's something that's core for her, but it's also core for our organization. So mentorship for us can mean everything from supporting organizations who do the work, whether it's Big Brothers, Big Sisters, or those who are providing mentors, to our partners with, you know, Paul Quinn College and being able to support students who are coming up and creating amazing, diverse talent, to the personal mentorships that we provide to our employees. So it's a big part of being able to support each other and really helping those of us who may have more experience to be able to pass along what they've learned, but more than that, to help provide opportunity for those that we're mentoring. So it is just crucial to who we are, and we all have a responsibility to help lead the future and to really help bring up those who are coming behind us.
Okay, we have one more question from the live audience, and then we'll wrap up.
Good afternoon. I'm Latasia Morgan from Paul Quinn College. I'm classified as a junior. I'm majoring in health and wellness with a teacher certification. And my dream is to become a teacher and also coach, where I also play volleyball. So I want to coach volleyball and mentor younger people so that way they can have a better pathway and also be a guidance to them as well. But my question for you guys, as y'all work with nonprofits, I'm also in a social entrepreneurship class, and I was recently asked this question, but I want to ask you to see y'all's input. What is stopping social change? And in my opinion, it's basically the structure of society and how we're not able to relieve and, you know, fix all issues in the just because of the structure of society. So from your point of view, what is stopping social change?
Yeah.
So Kara,
What?
that's
Okay, first.
okay. Real quick, because we need to wrap up for the virtual
Okay.
audience. So
Well,
what's the big?
We can talk.
That is a big question. I think you've hit the nail on the head, right? Which is that it is bigger. It's not one person. It's not one of us just putting a barrier up. It's that it's normalized, right? To, you know, this is just the way it is, right? And or to be naive and not have an understanding of my experience was very different than someone else's, right? So it's where I think it does come back to, in order for it to be normalized, that this is not okay, it has to become all of us, right? It can't just be one particular group. It can't be those who are most impacted, most all on their own, right? To me, this is the work that we come back to in our Mavs Take Action program, which is about, yes, listening, yes, learning, but uniting around this. It's where you can't just stand by and do nothing. And there's many people who don't have an understanding, many people who don't know, right? And that's part of it. So we have to flip what's normal. We have to be able to say, this is not okay, and even if it's normal, then we have to change it, and we have to do it together. So it's a big question, and I think you're right. There's a lot more to be done, but I think we can all be optimistic that we can join hands and we can say, this is not right, and we're going to make a change.
Kara, quick comment?
Systems function as designed. We know this. We know and believe in design thinking. We know and believe in equitable design thinking. Systems can be redesigned, and it's I believe social change is happening. Our responsibility as humans is to find our role and stick hard at it. There is going to be no big bang of social change. Just got to keep at it.
Yeah, you know my answer, selfishness, right? Social change is challenged by those who are invested in the status quo. So as we push for change, they push for status quo. And our job is to continuously and just relentlessly continue that fight. But once we solve for selfishness, I think we'll be surprised at how social change starts to really pick up speed.
So remember, the theme today was about clarity, using that for possibility thinking. As a lawyer, I did this all the time. I took notes so this is my closing argument. I'm a little off script, but not. Sandy, I want you to stand up. Everything you see across the street and here, you talk about possibility thinking. She built all of this herself. So any student here, I don't care what color you are, I don't care how tall you are, I don't care if you went 6 for 24. You can do it if you can see it, so our job is to help you see. So I'm going to steal also and say, today, find someone to walk next to, help them dream bigger, and then with clarity, take action. That's what we learned today, right? Sandy taught me, step out, zoom out, reflect on what you heard, and then do something about it. So again, thank you to our sponsors. Thank you for being here virtually. I have a script to go through. I'm not going to do it because we're running late, but we're running late because of what you all gave us today, right? So we learned something very important today. Don't just take it as words. If you're a student, stay. You can share a little bit more with Dr. Allen, but thank you. Thank you to the virtual audience. Thank you all for being here. Thank you.